The best of Money Matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dared to disrupt the status quo, find a gap in the market to find the right business. I'm Nadiah Koh. Weight loss is undergoing a major shift. With Ozempic and GLP-1 medications making headlines, consumers are rethinking traditional diet approaches. Studies show that GLP-1 drug prescriptions have surged over 300% in the past 2 years, with analysts predicting the global market could hit $100 billion by 2030. But even as these medications gain traction, not everyone wants or can afford a prescription-based approach. Meanwhile, AI-powered diet apps are gaining traction for their ease of use and personalized approach to weight loss. One such innovation is Welling AI. Welling AI is a Singapore-based AI-powered weight loss app designed to make nutrition tracking effortless and sustainable. Instead of relying on tedious manual calorie counting, Welling AI uses artificial intelligence to analyze your food choices and offer personalized feedback. So joining me today to share more is Philip Mann, co-founder of Welling AI. Hi Philip, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Welling AI enters the scene at a time when GLP-1 medications like Ozempic are dominating the weight loss conversation. What gap did you see in the market that led you to build Welling AI?
Yeah, I think, in the past few years, you see kind of health tracking and people wanting to understand about their body much more and more. There's, of course, a lot of checking on fitness and workouts, sleep, or women's health. But then you look at one of the most important things about a person's health, which is their nutrition and their food intake. And that really hasn't changed very much. Like the dominant solution that people are still using nowadays, a calorie tracker hasn't really changed for the past 20 years. Obesity rates are still rising though. So, this is going to be a bigger problem for more people. And then yes, people are using these tools, but then you ask 10 people and 8 of them would probably tell you that, they have experience using it. They probably tried it for a week or so, and then they gave up. They found them hard to use. They're mostly Western-based, not really made for Asia. We thought, looking at that, we thought it's a big problem, and we thought we can create a better solution that is perhaps not Western-based. And at the same time, it coincided with AI and language models coming out, and we thought we could solve this problem.
I understand that you had an extensive career in tech. So what brought about that jump into health entrepreneurship?
I used to still work in tech, not necessarily related to health, but I come actually from a family with obesity and diabetes. Grew up with cousins, uncles, where we always kind of had to pay extra attention to what we're eating. So, topics around food and health has always intrigued me. So I always wanted to be working in health. And then after my first startup, I decided to pick a category that I'm really deeply passionate about and I can see myself working for the next decade. And I thought, what better way make an impact on people's lives than improving their health. And I think health is incredibly interesting. There's a kind of technical and scientific aspect to it, and yet it's very innately human. So, you have to deal with people's emotions, ambitions, and be incredibly empathetic. So I thought it was a great industry for me to get started.
I see. So there's a personal story behind this. But how do you see Welling AI fitting or complementing the GLP-1 trend? Is your vision to be an alternative support system or something else entirely?
I think on kind of like a higher level, we have the same mission, let's say, it's people struggling with weight loss. So we want to just help make it easier for people, right? So help people through weight loss, which in turn can hopefully make them feel better, more confident, but also kind of reduces risk of chronic diseases. We just maybe do it differently, We do believe that if you want to make changes, they should probably be lasting, long-term changes. So, using our app, we're much more focused on helping you develop kind of like healthier habits, give you a mindfulness around what you are eating, while maybe using or taking something like GLP is more of a quick fix. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking that. I think it's maybe, if you're really struggling, a great way to kickstart your weight loss journey. But I do think in the end, it's about kind of change, like long-term behavior change. And then at the same time, we had actually users who are taking GLP, and then I think there are kind of maybe two issues with it. One is, of course, that, when people stop with it, I believe something around 70% of people could regain their weight within 12 months, which is not surprising because they haven't necessarily learned about, how to actually think about food that you're eating. And at the same time, a lot of the weight loss may come from also, I believe, muscle loss So we want to make sure people eat enough protein as well. We also had users who were taking actual GLP, and she was actually having the other way, which is she was afraid that she was not eating enough. I believe she just didn't have any cravings or maybe even appetite at all, and she was actually using Welling still to make sure she was eating enough. So, in a way, I think it's actually more like a complementary GLP and Welling. I do think GLP-1s, you can take them and it's maybe a great jump start for people to do weight loss. But if you really want to help you keep it off, you want to use something like Welling to help you with that.
So on that note, I understand that Welling AI is very focused on busy professionals, young parents, and people transitioning off medications like Ozempic. What do these groups have in common, and how does your product specifically serve their unique needs?
Yeah, I guess one thing the busy professionals and have in common is that they are not necessarily very rigid in achieving their goals. They understand that life happens, and if they need a glass of wine, they will. But yeah, I think really it's about busies, and busy is not necessarily expressed in time-wise, but really like mental energy. These people, they understand that, they should probably try to eat a bit better to be healthy, have more energy, but they really just don't want to think about it, especially not 5 times a day if you need to track every meal. So, again, it's not necessarily about time. So, using Welling, we will really make you, you don't need to spend minutes to track your meals, but more like in seconds. But also really the key thing is you don't have to think about it. So you can just send it to Welling, and Welling will, look at it, make the estimation, calculate, and that makes it much easier. At the same time, again, life happens, people forget. So we spend a lot of time in kind of like help people plan throughout the day. We send them a morning reminder when we would tell them, okay, this is how you did yesterday, this is what we suggest you do today. We send them a dinner check-in. We know dinner is like the hardest meal for people, especially if you have like a busy working day. We just make them a bit more mindful so that they can plan their dinner. But really the big difference is if you use our solution, it's not just a tracker, right? So we try to really be a coach, and we really try to serve our users.
So what kind of results have your users seen so far, not just in weight loss, but in sustainable behavior change? Can you share a story that really struck you?
I think the number one feedback actually we get from our users, which we're really proud of, is like, it really doesn't feel like tracking. It feels like I'm just telling my friend what I ate. That's really important to us. That feedback tells us kind of 2 things. 1, people feel it is really easy and effortless to use. And 2, it feels very familiar. It's kind of like a safe space and it's enjoyable. So, we had a user, this is kind of like a typical user. She was in her 40s, then she's navigating her menopause. And she said, look, I tried many different things, but every time I try them, I feel like I had to step out of my normal life for, let's say, 3 months and do whatever I needed to do, like cut down on carbs and whatever it is. But it's kind of like put a stop to your normal life and kind of step back in. And she said, look, I did not feel that with Welling at all. So, okay, I feel very empowered. I can kind of self-direct my eating habits. Felt like, I have someone that I can kind of lean on, in Welling. And, she's like, okay, I'm very super confident that I will stick to this. So I think that's one of the way of telling that, how we have designed the experience very differently, where we'll really be able to give someone like a coach or an accountability buddy.
I see. So behavioral change is notoriously hard. How does Welling AI keep their users engaged and motivated over the long term, especially after the novelty of using a new app wears off?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is, we try to really make it stupidly easy. The kind of 2 numbers that we look at. One is, research says if you can make something that, only costs a minute for people to do, they are much more likely to stick to it. That's really what we try to create. And then the other one is kind of I believe the number is if someone can do something for 20 days, they can turn it into a habit. So really make it super easy for people to do. They don't have to think about it. Of course, we also have features like, daily reminders and daily streaks, and they are kind of helpful nudges. But we do think core of the product, we really designed it for people to have almost like a connection with Welling. And if you think about it, why do people stay, for example, if you have a private trainer in the gym, why do people like to stay with that trainer? It's because the trainer knows them, and the trainer knows what they can do and what they cannot do and what they like and what they don't like. And it provides kind of a familiarity when they interact with it. And that's really what we want to create with Welling as well. And we think familiarity is something that would turn into loyalty.
With the shift away from calorie tracking and towards intuitive AI-powered solutions, what does the future of weight loss look like to you in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think tracking is, sorry about that. So I think tracking is not transformation, So we think of 2 things. One is what we have seen so far is people using tracking tools and they just kind of note down and then know what they have been eating, right? Tracking kind of tells you what you did, doesn't really tell you what you should do next. That's really what we try to create. People need more than just tracking. Again, when you go with a nutrition coach or a weight loss coach, one thing is, of course, they help you track and they give you feedback. But really what they need is they need planning, and they need someone to remind them, and they need someone to look at their personal situation and tell them what to do, and they need some accountability and encouragement. And this is really, we think, where tracking tools or AI tools is going, kind of like coaching intelligence on demand.
So you were mentioning something about a nutrition coach. You've had a personal experience with a WhatsApp nutrition coach. How does that work? And how did that shape the product's user experience and philosophy?
Yeah, so to be clear, like WhatsApp nutrition coach, this was an actual person. This was a Singaporean nutrition coach that I hired. Maybe he's listening and he knows who he is. I want to thank this person because actually he, in a way, inspired me to start. And in all honesty, the service that I received at the time was very much subpar. And I thought we can do this better. Because when I started, I had no idea how any of this works. I take the intake call and I felt like I was kind of like thrown into the dark. I wanted to message and ask questions to him, but then maybe late, and I didn't want to disturb the guy all the time, and then maybe he was busy and he didn't respond very often. And that really kind of made me frustrated and left alone while I thought I hired a coach. We also had kind of like things that we agreed on that I was supposed to do, but I told him, okay, I think that is actually a bit difficult for me to do. I was expecting like a bit more hand-holding and reminding. That didn't really happen either, So that's really where we thought, okay, maybe we can do this better with providing, creating like an AI solution for it.
I see, because AI is 24/7, yeah? So Philip, before we let you go, what's your long-term goal for Welling AI? What's next in terms of expansion and future growth?
Yeah, we think actually that the market for calorie and food tracking is potentially multiples of what it is now, right? So again, we have 10 people that have ever tried a calorie tracking app, 8 out of them say, I tried for a bit and then I gave up. So the demand is there. We just don't think that there was a really easy to use tool for people to, keep using it. At the same time, around this insight that, we think a lot of the non-Western countries are underserved by the current more Western-based apps, where a lot, in Asia, we feel that there's a lack of Asian data or very kind of like messy Asian foods data in these apps. So, we think we have a better solution. We focus a lot on making sure we get the local foods right in our app, and also to make it, again, a stupidly simple solution for people to do calorie tracking. And we think we can really grow from there. There are arguably many Asian countries that have the same problem where they, have their own local cuisine and, own local language, and a lot of these current apps don't work well for them. So that's kind of like one way. At the same time, what we really have seen is that the more people interact with Welling, the more they want Welling to know about. People have tried to actually track other things inside of Welling. So a lot of our customer base are female. They are trying to log their cycles in there. So people trying to log their sleep. We even have people trying to upload blood test reports. We currently don't handle that yet, but, it's like people open the app already 5-6 times a day because you have to check your food. And it kind of makes sense to then also just check the other things in there and then provide people kind of cross-metric insights. Like, okay, if you want to improve your sleep, maybe we can tell them, hey, when is the last time you consumed caffeine? When was the last meal? Did you consume any alcohol? And give them more insights around that. So, that would be kind of the other path is, where we can potentially become like a personal AI for health. And we think solving diet tracking is the path to get there.
Amazing. I'll be sure to check out Welling AI. It's a personal AI for food tracking and improving your diet. So, Philip, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was Philip Mann, co-founder of Welling AI. This has been The Right Business with me, Nadiah Koh.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.